Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the advisory board meeting. We're live here on March 7th, 2024. Glad that you're here, and we're going to dive right in with our roll call. Actually, could you go back before that? I do want to make sure that we let folks know that to view the ASL interpretation pen, I don't want to mess your name up, Nave.
So it says ASL interpreter right there on the screen, so just make sure people look for that.
Absolutely. Thank you. If you need the ASL interpretation, look for our team, Nave and L. And now we'll do the roll call. Let's look at our agenda. But if you go to the next slide, we will say some names. Lena Andrews.
Here.
Jamil Bey, Dr. Jamil Bey. Tammy Thompson. Karen Garrett.
Present.
Karen.
Present. Yeah, sorry.
Councilwoman Deb Gross.
Here.
Hi, Deb.
Hello.
Mark Masterson.
Present.
Deidre Washington.
Here.
Marcus Reed. I am here, literally here. Alan Cisco.
I'm here. Hi, guys.
Hey, Alan. Derek Tillman. James Reed. I am here. Yes. Glad you're here too. And Adrian.
I am here remotely.
Yeah, we're wishing you a speedy recovery.
Thank you.
Kelly, where? Okay. At this time, everyone that is here, I'm assuming that you've had a chance to review the minutes for February 7th. Is there a motion to accept those minutes? Our February meeting.
I'll move to approve. This is Mark.
Thank you, Martin. Is there a second?
I'll second them. It's Karen.
Thank you, Karen. We appreciate you all saying your name because sometimes the name, we can't see the faces. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, at this time, we will have public comments. Just as a reminder, let me get this, there's a 3-minute public.
3 minutes, yeah.
Okay, just as a reminder for the folks that are giving public comment that we try to keep that public comment to around 3 minutes. And about 30 seconds before that, we will give you a 30-second wrap up if you're getting to that point. The person that we have outlined for public comments is Megan. Are there any other public comments? No one here? No one online? Okay, Megan, take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you. My name is Megan Hammond. I'm the Executive Director of the Fair Housing Partnership of Greater Pittsburgh. Today, I want to raise a discussion on the rental gap program to talk generally to the advisory board about how the Housing Opportunity Fund can begin to communicate publicly that it supports rental gap program applicants who are pursuing projects with units that have larger bedroom sizes as a fair housing matter regarding our need for housing for families with children. One example to raise in an innovation model is that intergenerational housing supports units that are both for seniors and units for families mixed within the same building or property to provide that town and community support for families and seniors living together. And today, just to raise on today's agenda, I am interested to understand better the ask of the African Queen Apartment today, because I understood that in November 2023, the URA board approved $410,000 in a rental gap program loan. And so I'm just curious to understand today if today's ask is a part of or in addition to that November URA vote. And additionally to ask if whether the existing building for the development is being preserved and rehabilitated, or is this development going to be new construction? I asked this question to understand what to expect regarding the property's disability accessibility due to the nuance of multiple laws involved regarding the accessibility of the built environment. So in short, I hope to see discussion and pursuit of innovative housing ideas within the Housing Opportunity Fund throughout 2024. And I'm happy to continue collaborating on doing just that. I appreciate your time. Thank you all.
Thank you, Megan. Are there any other public comments? Anyone online? That should be all. Right. You know, you're giving like Ted from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I'm here for it.
It's one get that reference, unfortunately, but I'll take it as a compliment.
That's hilarious. I'm so hilariously old right now. In this moment.
That's depressing.
So we're turning it over for URA admin updates.
Thank you, Dr. Spradley. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Derek Kendall Morris. I'm the manager of consumer lending within the URA's housing department. Just have a few administrative updates to provide this afternoon. Number one is just that at the upcoming URA board meeting, we will be extending an already existing contract with the Hilltop Alliance for the Homeowner Assistance Program. They have been one of our longstanding program administrators for that program. Managing, those home repair projects, in their organizational footprint, which, are sort of the southern hilltop neighborhoods of the city. So we will be granting them some additional funding from the HOF 2024 funding allocation so that they can continue to do the good work that they are already doing. So you'll see that on the URA board agenda for March 14th. So wanted you to be aware of that. Also wanted you to be aware that the small landlord fund guideline changes that this board discussed and voted on at the February meeting will be going in front of the URA board for discussion at this month's March 14th URA board meeting. And at that meeting, we will be announcing the changes, and we will also be announcing that we're going to have a month of public comment available on the URA website, so people can give us feedback on those proposed changes. We will adjust the guidelines based on that feedback. Perhaps bring it back to this board if there are changes that we want to make based on that feedback. And if not, then those changes will be approved at the April URA board meeting. So that's the timeline there. I just want us all to be aware of that, because that was a really in-depth and I think fruitful discussion at the February HOF meeting. So those are the next steps in that process for us. So I want you to be aware of that as well. And then coming up in a future meeting, we will discuss this in more detail. But we are currently talking to the city of Pittsburgh to see if we can redirect some of their existing CDBG funding coming out of the pandemic towards the legal assistance program to help us expand the services that program is currently operating under. The city has some CDBG funds that have a timetable on them that they need to spend by 2025. And we feel like, using those funds through the legal assistance program to help us expand into more courtrooms, reach more people facing eviction would be a really good use of those funds. So we're still figuring out, how much money exactly would we be able to funnel into LAP and what does that look like? So we will update you all on that in the future, but want you to know that there is a potential kind of exciting opportunity there that is coming.
It's like celebratory news, right?
Yeah,
Megan,
I think that it is
in that
celebratory.
space for a bit.
For sure. So more to come there, but that's good news, I think, for all of us. And then some other good news that we want to highlight and celebrate is coming up in a few weeks. This month, the down payment closing costs assistance program. We have 3 loans that are coming up on their maturity dates. So those loans will actually be, coming to their maturity and they'll be forgiven, which means our first down payment and closing cost assistance program clients have lived in their home successfully now for 5 years. And that's, the first of many, many, many new homeowners that we've helped through that program over the last, what is it now, 7 years, 8 years? So we're really excited to see that the program is working as designed. People are successfully being homeowners as a result. So want to highlight that and just highlight the great work that, Brianna on our staff does every day through that program to help people become homeowners, and it's working. So I think that's something to highlight and celebrate as well. All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Derek.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David DiBernardo, and I'm a lending analyst in the residential lending department of the URA. I'm here today seeking authorization to enter into a rental gap program loan agreement in an amount not to exceed $840,000 with Kingdom Rising Holdings LLC or a related entity for the construction of African Queens apartments. As part of this, we have another authorization. I'm not sure if the HOF actually needs to approve this, but just to make it aware at least that we're also requesting authorization to extend the reverter deed on the property until July 31st of 2024 to give the property project time to close. Next slide. Okay, before I continue, I do want to point out that you have seen this project before. We came initially to the board in November of last year, and a $410,000 rental gap program loan was approved. This project has not closed yet, and now we're requesting a $430,000 increase to that loan amount to $840,000. I will get into that more, but first let's give a little overview what this project actually is. The developer on this project, Kingdom Rising Holdings LLC, is comprised of 85% nonprofit Amani Christian Community Development Corporation and 15% nonprofit Neighborhood Allies Holdings LLC. This project consists of 2 commercial spaces, which will be rented out by Catapult Greater Pittsburgh and the Amani Christian Community Development Corporation for office space. On the 3 floors above, there will be 12 units, all affordable at or below 30% of area median income. 3 of these units will be 2-bedroom units, and 3 of the 1-bedroom units will comply with the uniform federal accessibility standards, meaning that they're handicap accessible at a standard level. So since November, as more precise drawings and construction plans became available and updated contractor bids were received, it became evident that additional funding would be necessary for this project. In response to this need, 9 of the 12 units have lowered their AMI restriction levels from 50 and 80% down to 30%. This change allowed the project to be eligible for an additional $430,000 from the rental gap program, and an additional, $390,000 will be for construction financing, and $40,000 will be added to the supportive services escrow for this project. In addition to requesting more funding from the URA, the developer has increased their deferred developer fee by over $250,000. FNB has increased their loan amount by $85,000. They have privately received indication that they will be receiving a $500,000 grant, which we're not publicly going to announce before the grant is publicly announced, but we will ensure we have evidence of that financing and of all financing before we would actually close on this rental gap program loan. So time is of the essence for this project. So this project is part of the capital stack. This project has a $750,000 FHLB AHP grant, which is expiring on March 15th. They are requesting, the developer is requesting an extension of that grant, but We expect to receive a few extra weeks to close, but if we don't get all funding secured and show progress, they're at risk of actually losing that critical funding for this project. We want to do everything we can to support this project. African Queens Apartments provides commercial space and affordable housing on a currently abandoned lot and abandoned former record store on Center Avenue in the Hill District community of Pittsburgh. This street is one that the URA has identified as one of the 7 Avenues of Hope corridors, which we seek to support and rebuild, bringing vitality and life back to a historically under-resourced neighborhood. Joining us today on the call, we have 2 members of the Kingdom Rising Holdings LLC. We have the partnership representative, Reverend Lee Walls, and we have Jim Palmer. So Reverend, you can go ahead and speak whatever you want about your project.
Hello, thank you so much for this opportunity to come before the advisory board again. We've been working on this project since about 2021 as a part of the Avenues of Hope, and David has very aptly described what the program or what the building will look like. One of the unfortunate parts of building projects in this particular time is the increase on the other side of COVID. This project originally began as a $6 million project. And as you can see, our costs have risen incrementally over the last 2 years, especially the last 18 months. So we have adapted our budget. I'm joined today with our Director of Real Estate and Projects for Amani, Mr. Jim Palmer, and he can take us into some of the other comments that I think need to be made so that the advisory board will have a clear understanding of our project.
Thank you, Reverend. I do just want to address, so my name is Jim Palmer. I am Amani Christian CDC's Director of Real Estate and Development. And again, Amani Christian CDC is the nonprofit majority stakeholder of Kingdom Rising Holdings LLC, the entity which would hold title to this project. I just wanted to reiterate some of the reasons for why this increase in cost, why we're seeing this increase in cost, driven primarily by the cost of construction increasing. Our anticipated general contractor is the union shop, and this project will implement Davis-Bacon prevailing wages. So unsurprisingly, good fair wages will be paid to the contractors building this building. As well as we've been negotiating in some ways with the contractor to value engineer as much as we can out of to reduce as many costs as we are able to make this project happen. And we've sort of arrived at this, let's call it $8.3 million total development cost as sort of the best cost that we can get for our money, I think. And as David mentioned, time is of the essence. We are in the process of wrangling 14 different funders to arrive at a closing date within the next month or so. And your support today will be essential to seeing that vision through within the next few weeks. I do want to address some of Megan Hammond's questions. Specifically, this will be a new construction project. There is a small existing vacant, dilapidated commercial space occupying some of this parcel. And early in the project, it was determined that existing building is not salvageable. So we were initially considering salvaging that portion of that building and building up and around it, but unfortunately it's just too far gone. It's been vacant for I think about 15 years now, and the roof is caved in, and it's just pretty bad in there. So it'll be a fully new construction building, 4-story above grade plus a basement, a fully elevated building. And as David mentioned, 3 UFAS accessible units. In addition to that, in addition to those 3 handicap accessible units, there will be one audio-visual UFAS unit, and all units will be will meet visitability standards. I also want to note or reiterate, as David mentioned, this is we have decided to make this project a deeply affordable development with all 12 residential units targeting 30% AMI and below residents, and to allow us to request this increase in funding from the rental gap program still within the allowed permitted amounts of the rental gap program. So again, thank you for your consideration today.
Thank you, Jim and Reverend. We'd now be happy to take any questions from any board members.
So does the project have a project-based voucher contract, or would you be looking for tenants to apply that have vouchers like individually?
Excuse me, could you just say your name really quickly?
My name's Lena.
Thank you, just before everyone talks.
Okay, sorry.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but all 12 units are project-based vouchers, not the housing choice voucher eligible. So they all, and part of the funding is coming from HACP also.
Okay, so there's a contract for all of the units.
Yes, all 12 units are project-based voucher units. In addition to project-based vouchers, we have funding through the Federal Home Loan Bank of the Federal Home Loan Bank of the City of Pittsburgh, and they have additional. We've committed to additional requirements as far as the tenant demographics and makeup through Federal Home Loan Bank. So as a consequence of that, specifically around formerly incarcerated individuals, formerly or unhoused individuals, victims of domestic violence, young people aging out of the foster care system, we are specifically targeting those populations and have committed to that through our Federal Home Loan Bank funding. So as a consequence of that, we will have to, separate from the Housing Authority of the City of Pittsburgh, identify our tenants and then refer them to the Housing Authority to be assigned their project-based voucher.
Jim, you spoke about the time frame shifting a little bit. Is that well? You talked about the construction costs going up. Has that shifted the time frame of the completion of this project significantly, or do you have an estimated of when these tenants might have a chance to move in?
So actually, and interestingly, the completion date has not shifted, because initially while we were budgeting for a lower construction cost than we have now, we were also budgeting for a longer construction duration than the contractors indicated. So we were previously estimating a 15-month construction period from start to finish. Our contractor is expecting a 12-month construction period. So that builds in a little bit of a buffer at the back end that we're comfortable with. Still anticipating, if we financially close within the next month, receive our permit a month after that, we would be looking at finishing construction mid-year 2025 and lease up shortly after that. So summer, early fall 2025, having these units available and leased up.
Yes, Lee.
Sorry, who's the design team, like the contractor and the architect?
Yes, so the architect is Gerard Winston, a minority business owner, as well as our civil engineer is Cosmos, another minority business. Our surveyor is Urban Terrain, a women-owned business. Those are the contracts the owner has directly contracted with on the design team, and then the architect has subcontractors or subconsultants at WBCM as the structural engineer and Allen and Sharif as the electrical, plumbing, mechanical engineer. The anticipated contractor, and we are in the final stages of negotiating the contract and anticipate signing that within the next week, will be Waller Corporation, a minority business enterprise.
Jim and, oh, go ahead, whoever else that was.
No, please go ahead, Alan.
All right, cool. Jim and Reverend, I think I asked a question similar to this last time around, and but this is really like a kitchen sink project when it comes to targeting for the eventual residents, making a lot of commitments and getting very narrow on the types of folks who are qualified to live in these units based on the financing. What kind of, in this 8.2, and I'm sure maybe it's in the documentation somewhere, in this $8.2 million project, you know, a year from now, when you're looking at leasing, like what kind of resources do you have to identify these folks, to support these 30% or less folks, like getting into these units, like what kind of wraparounds? Because that seems to me, in addition to just like the cost of this thing, that seems to me like a bit of a risky proposition, is, you know, the leasing with that really narrow targeting.
Thank you for that question. I'm just reviewing my the project budget right now. We have a $120,000 of supportive services reserve, which will be used annually as supportive services. We also intend to work with Catapult Pittsburgh to identify or work through the tenant application process and identify those applicants who would be a good fit for our building.
Is there money for that, Jim? Like there's money somewhere for?
Yes, yeah. Okay. The Federal Home Loan Bank funding includes funding set aside for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we also have money from the Hillman Foundation for that as well. And we'll be seeking other foundational support as we move forward and get closer to construction and beyond.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And then my other question is, like, with Federal Home Loan Bank, have they, like, did you guys need to get a like a modification to your original application to change the unit makeup, like the AMI makeup, and did they approve that already?
So we will need to do that. We have a very well-regarded consultants helping us navigate the Federal Home Loan Bank.
Oh, geez, really?
They are Full Quiver Consulting.
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
And so we know that we will need to file a modification, but every indication is that since we are increasing affordability across the board, it should be a simple acceptance by Federal Home Loan Bank.
Okay. But like a note for like the rest of our committee here, like there are some, like, you know, they're coming here to us to change. They're also going to have to go and get changes approved at Federal Home Loan Bank as well, to modify the sort of the way that this thing is set up for targeting and other things. So thanks for answering the question, Jim. And yeah, in my personal experience with that funder, as long as you're increasing affordability, you're pretty safe. But they do have to go through a process.
You know, just to piggyback on the tenant targeting piece, we do have, you know, here with us today, Megan Hammond, who obviously has a lot of bandwidth related to, you know, understanding the need in the community and also having connections with folks who are in need of appropriate, affordable, accessible housing. So just a reminder to all of our partners, the Fair Housing Partnership is there, and, you know, taking advantage of their abilities is always going to enhance the possibility of success for these projects. So just a reminder that I wanted to put out there.
Thank you for that referral, and I do want to acknowledge Megan Hammond. Thank you for your questions during the public comment. Certainly, if you're allowed to, feel free to chime in if if you need any more clarity on any of the answers I provided.
So because we have enough folks, would you mind going back 2 slides or 1 slide? We are seeking authorization to enter into rental gap program loan agreement, the amount not to exceed $840,000. Kingdom Rising Holdings LLC, a related entity, for the construction of Akron Queens apartment located at 2159 Center Avenue. And authorization to amend resolution number 290, as previously amended by resolutions number 213 and 340, which authorized ERA to hold a reverter deed, the reconveyance of block 10P, lot 25 in the 5th Ward from Amani Christian Community Development Corporation or related entity to extend the deadline for financial closing from March 31st, 2024 to July 31st, 2024. Is there someone willing to make a motion on the 2 issues that we brought up?
Just a point of clarification, is the 840,000, is that inclusive of the previous authorization?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? That was Deidre, yes. Thank you, Deidre. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Just a quick point, are there any abstentions?
Yes, this is Karen. I abstain.
And was that also Lena?
Yes.
Can we vote with a few absent, like, do we have enough to have so many abstentions? Okay, just making sure. Cool. Aye.
I'm
Any nays? And we've already asked for extensions. So moved.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
Adrian, how you feeling? Are you able to chat about the next piece or?
Sure am.
Okay.
So we had put out a quick email to everyone. We found that the March 20th date was not getting the response level that we would have liked to make sure that we're really incorporating, all of our members into a robust retreat discussion. So we are actually going to postpone the retreat until later in the year. Dr. Spradley and myself will be reaching out to members to talk through, expectations related to this group, ability to participate, things that we'd like to see at the retreat, in ways that we can engage our membership before we have the retreat rescheduled. So we thank everyone for the input we did receive, but we are feeling like with our vacancies right now, plus just some unavailability from our team members, that it is best to postpone the retreat until a time that we can, really have the highest level of active participation and engagement. So be looking forward to some messages from Dr. Spradley and I to the membership to, get our finger on the pulse of what you're thinking for the group, and much more to come on rescheduling the retreat. Do we have any questions or concerns about the postponement? Hearing none, we'll continue to engage the group in the discussion of our rescheduling. Thank you, everyone.
Adrian.
The next item on the agenda is first of many future agenda items around the annual allocation plan process, which is a mandated process that we have to go through every single year. But as we begin to prepare for that process, we had an idea and a request that we wanted to bring to the advisory board this afternoon. As we went through the survey process last year, it was an extremely successful effort last year. We had more responses from the community than we've ever had in previous years. But one data point that we identified was, we did have over 100 paper surveys that were filled out at different community events by, individuals who don't have internet access or aren't very tech savvy. But unfortunately, with a paper survey, if you don't fill it out exactly the right way, for our data collection purposes, we have to throw those out. So, we had over 100 surveys and we ended up having to throw out over half of those responses last year because of errors that were made in completing the paper version of the survey. So we're trying to explore some different ways that we can cut down on the number of, community responses that we aren't able to use in this year's effort. So something that we'd like to explore this afternoon for a moment would just be, purchasing 5 to 6 iPads that URA staff can use during this year's survey process at community meetings for individuals who aren't able to go on their own phone and complete the survey, or go on a computer later on and complete the survey. We can have a URA staff person or a volunteer sit down with them at that community event and help them complete the survey in a way where we can use their opinions and their feedback and include that in the data. Our original thought was that just if we were to take about $1,500 out of the demonstration line item from the HOF funding, we could purchase 5, 6 iPads, and it would enable us to do this. And we would be able to capture more community feedback and have more robust process that has more opinions from some of the populations that we really want to hear from that are harder for us to reach each year. So that would be our request. And we would love to hear people's thoughts about that request.
And just to add on a couple of points, Eric Bernheimer talking, we also anticipate, so first of all, that a lot of the accessibility features on an iPad could be very useful at these meetings, things like larger text and things of that nature. Because for people that can't use their phone as well, like an iPad can really help bridge the gap. It's something that we can use together to really make that process better. And the other thing that I would like to say about it is we anticipate we'll be able to use these iPads in other HOF-related items, specifically for people that come into the office, especially during HAP season, but for other programs as well, to be able to have an easier way of working together on those and meeting people where they are. So we think there'll be a number of applications for these iPads and would be a very solid investment. Open to questions and discussion about that.
I'm in favor of this. I think it's a great idea. As a former government employee who had to use terrible technology for years, it seems like a good investment of our resources.
Thank you, Lena.
You're welcome.
And if we buy like 6, do we also get 6 free for the board to just?
We will see what we can do.
Yeah, right. I've heard that line before.
Well, funny that you would say that, Paul, because one of the things that's really interesting about this piece of community engagement is that it doesn't have to stop with the URA or funds that come directly from the HOF. So something like having this level of technology available to facilitate people's participation, that is also something that, members of our group could support, corporations that we work with could support. 5 to 6 iPads could become 15 to 20 iPads with, some commitment from each of us. So it's also always interesting when these things come up to see if, you know, a small commitment could become a bigger commitment because maybe some of us have capacity to be able to, you know, enhance that portfolio of iPads that are available. You know, are we able to, from our parent corporations or from, you know, donations, are we able to say, well, we think it's a great idea. We would like to take it a step beyond, you know, 5 to 6 iPads, and we'd like to always make sure that there's 15 available. So as members of this particular group, you know, one of the things we could always think about is what could we leverage? You know, do we have any personal or organizational capacity to leverage more of this resource?
Just thinking about sort of the functionality out, you know, if these iPads are out in the field, has there been any thought or discussion into whether, you know, there need to be some form of internet provided outside of, you know, having to rely on a Wi-Fi connection and what I guess that might look like from a provider standpoint?
That's a really great question, James. You know, I would say I have not considered that, but we should look into that as well. You know, I think most events that we end up going to do have some sort of Wi-Fi present, but yeah, that could be spotty, and yeah, so having it, you know, an air spot or a hotspot or something that goes with these devices might be a good idea.
Yeah, speaking from experience at those meetings, most of them did have an internet connection to a free Wi-Fi. They're usually community spaces that provide that. But for the ones that aren't, we could consider having one of them, one iPad be connected to the internet, and then we could turn that on as a hotspot and the other ones could hop on that. That way we don't have to buy it for each individual one. That seems excessive because we're not doing anything particularly intensive on them.
Yeah, I think that's good things to consider.
Great question.
As you all were talking about iPads, my mind went to some of the summer opportunities, and I know that the timing might not adequately line up, but for instance, Dollar Bank, we are a sponsor of Juneteenth, and the amount of foot traffic that goes by in the Arts Festival, in the Regatta. Are there opportunities possibly, if this is approved and such, to have these iPads up there so that they're collecting data in these other spaces as well?
I would say absolutely. Yeah, and if, you know, as a sponsor, if we can partner with Dollar Bank. Yeah, if we have these devices, we could have volunteers and staff at those events, because that would be, you know, the survey would be live by then. So we would be able to do that for sure. I think that'd be a great opportunity.
Yeah, we're looking to attend as many events with these iPads as possible, so that's definitely a very intriguing offer for us.
Yeah.
What was the fund that you said?
So, you know, we would be pulling that $1,500 or so from the demonstration fund. If it was approved.
And is there a reason that you aren't, I'm sorry, this is Mark. Is there a reason that you're not taking this out of the $1 million admin line? It just seems like administrative, but I'm not understanding why we're gonna do $1,500 out of a demonstration line item.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mark. But yeah, the reason that doesn't come out of the, you know, $1 million admin line item, because that $1 million is for staffing costs. And that goes to, you know, staff salaries and other expenses. There is not a line item that $1 million covers. That would be, you know, that would allow us to purchase these devices. That's not something that we have a budget for.
Hi, this is Deidre. I was just thinking, you know, when you ask people to complete surveys, a lot of times they are looking for some type of incentive. Have you all thought about that? You know, any like giveaways? I don't know. You know, sometimes, you know, a lot of, you know.
Yeah, thank you, Deidre. That's a good question. We have thought about that. We have, you know, previous years, when we've had sponsors who've been able to help us do so, we've offered gift cards to different things at different events to try and encourage people to complete the surveys. So those are also opportunities that we're always looking for. Because that does certainly help to encourage people to complete the survey. So that's certainly something that we'd like to do. But again, these are not things that we have, a budget for. These are things that we need to be creative about to create.
Any other thoughts or questions? All right, then is there a motion for the URA to purchase iPads from the demonstration fund budget?
Can I ask a somewhat stupid question? Action Housing has received funding from the demonstration dollars before. Does that mean that I can't vote on it? Like, is there a year that this is? Do you understand my question?
I do understand the
I have
question.
to
I'm
abstain.
trying to think. Probably, maybe just for covering bases might be good if you abstain, but I'm not sure, to be honest.
But that doesn't mean you couldn't move, Lena, if you felt strongly about supporting this purchase.
Oh, okay, so moved.
Awesome. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Deidre. Any abstentions?
I guess I abstained.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I guess the ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
So next on the agenda is committee updates. I'm not sure if we are gonna do that today because a lot of the conversations were around the retreat. Or we were talking about how to make the retreat happen and so forth. So if there's someone on the call that would love to give a update, pause for about 10 seconds, and if you don't jump in, then we'll keep moving on. All right. I will say that one of the things that we're going to be doing is doing some social media outreach fairly soon. Thank you for what you've been sending and so forth in that respect. And we will be reaching out to the board to start to, in partnership with the team at the URA, to put the board's stories out there so people get to see who is behind some of the votes. And we want them to feel fun and light. So that is, that's on track.
And we also got some great links. If you haven't checked your most recent email from Eric, there's some great links there to some successes that the program has had. So if you haven't had a chance, please revisit your email.
Yeah, I did see the story of the homeowner who benefited from the HAP program on Instagram, and I thought it was really powerful. And I like seeing it out there in the world.
Thanks, Lena. It's good to know that it is out there. People are seeing.
Yeah, I didn't see it through your email. I saw it on Instagram, which I probably shouldn't be on at all, but.
I conducted the interview and it was a great time and I'm glad that, it's making an impact out there. I think she would be very happy about that too. She's very.
That's the exact kind of story we should be telling.
Exactly, yeah. So expect more of that in the future.
Great.
I'm working on getting more of those together. All right. our programmatic expenditures and updates. This is for February. Changing from last month, we now have some for sale development dollars went out the door, as well as small landlord fund. Those were absent from last month. So it's good to see some of those happening in this new year. Overall, some of our numbers are down from last month, but that's not necessarily because they're being productive, they're unproductive, they're just some things are still in the works. But overall, a very good showing from us under HOF. And then here is all of 2024. We can see that housing stabilization has been the bulk of our resources. And yeah, a lot of money going out the door, a lot of work being done. So are there any questions on any of this? All right, moving right into adjournment.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
We just completed and rented up Flats on Forward, which is a project in Squirrel Hill that received rental gap program funding through HOP a few years ago. And I would be happy, I mean, if we wanted to set up a tour for people to see it, I would love for you guys to come see the kind of projects that rental gap funds. Because I know they can seem like they take forever and they use a lot of resources, but it really is worth it. And I would love to invite the board to come on a walkthrough sometime.
Try to set up like a blue van group from,
Yeah, if you want to facilitate that with us, Lena,
Okay.
we'd love to do that.
we would love to
Yeah,
talk about
that'd be
that.
great. If you want to interview a resident too.
Yeah,
that might be
absolutely.
A good feature.
That'd be great.
Okay,
Definitely.
What a good opportunity. Thank you.
sure.
Great.
Yeah, so I like that. And I like the way the meeting started also when you were talking about we're at the 5-year mark of these folks being in a home. And I don't take that statement lightly, like that's significant for someone who might have, that moving into that space, that is a significant statement. And I want us to continue to celebrate things like that. That's significant. That means a lot. And it means a lot of people had to come together for those families to be in this space for 5 years, right? Like, I think about it from an athlete's perspective, right? Like there's practice that has to happen, even if you're in this new space, right? Like, and so it's cool to see that all coming together, working. Well, anybody else have anything else? Got anything? Nothing? Nothing you want to say? Then we're gonna adjourn this meeting. The next Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board meeting is gonna be Thursday, April 4th at 2 p.m. It will be here in person. We'd love to see your faces at the Dollar Bank headquarters downtown, 20 Stanwick Street, Pittsburgh, PA 15222. It's the first floor conference room, or you can join virtually because this is always aired live on the City of Pittsburgh YouTube channel as well. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a safe rest of your day, and we'll talk to you all next month.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.